Okay, I think you can start, Kate.
Okay. Good evening. I call the meeting to order at 5:30 sharp. We'll do a roll call. Mark Everett,
Present.
Brad,
I'm here.
Val,
Here.
Narcy,
Here.
Sonia.
Here.
All right. The school board will hear public comments for unscheduled public appearances received through the designated form on the district website. Patrons who want to comment live via Zoom should have already registered as a participant, completed the form to provide their information, and indicated they were going to provide a live comment. If you are providing your comment live as a Zoom participant, please be sure your full name is displayed in your Zoom profile. You can change that by clicking on the participants button, hover over your ID, click rename, and type in the correct information, and then select OK. Comments will be read by district staff or delivered live via Zoom at the appropriate time on the agenda and will be limited to 3 minutes. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll do introductions now. Is there any staff?
Yep. John O'Neill, Assistant Superintendent.
David Warner, Communications.
Kevin Noreen, Human Resources.
Enrique Piñón, Technology Department.
Eileen Clute, Business.
Kim Shear, Director, Student Services.
Is that everybody? Okay. Approval of tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Yep.
Discussion? Mark,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
and Narcy.
Yes.
Okay. Correspondence and celebrations, Dave.
I'll cover it when I get to the superintendent's comments.
Okay, thank you. Sonia, a student report?
So girls soccer, they're going to the semifinals. So tomorrow at Beaverton, it'll be at 6. So if you want to attend, that would be great. And then the fall play will be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's Crazy Town. So if you also want to stop by for that. And then all of November, we're doing a clothing drive for our community closet. So basically, like, staff and students can like drop off clothes, and then spirit points will be given. So hopefully we can get a good amount of clothing to start up our closet. And then tomorrow we have Veterans Day presentation. So I think since it's like, no, it's not a rally, it'll be different, but it'll be during advisory. And then in terms of like mood, it hasn't really changed since the last time. I think people are kind of excited for less school, but are still like pretty tired and stuff. And yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for Sonia?
Tanya, this is Brad. Where do you drop off your clothing that you want to donate?
So it should be like inside the high school, and if you know where like the elevator is, there should be boxes there, and you can just place it in there. And then if like someone like took the boxes in for whatever reason, they'll be in Kirkman's room, which is 1202. So,
All right, perfect.
People can just, if they're not students, you can just choose whatever class you want to put it in.
Okay, thank you.
Candace, any clothes? Sonia, any type of clothes?
Yeah, any type of clothes, but specifically if you have any like jackets or like winter clothes would be great, like socks and stuff. So
Any
Where are you
age?
guys taking the clothes to?
Oh, go ahead.
So we have the community cupboard, which is like the food pantry, but we're doing something similar to that, except for it's a closet. So then people in our community, if they don't have enough money to like buy new clothes or anything, they can like have some of those.
So how does that work? Do you guys advertise that? Is there certain times that they would have to come to the school to access?
I don't know all that information at the moment. I think right now they're just trying to like set everything up and like get like the actual clothes before they start distributing anything.
Okay, if you could get us that information, that would be great and helpful. I also wanted to add in about the soccer thing, that tomorrow they are traveling to Beaverton, and so they're going to do a send-off for the team. So if everybody and anybody could come to the high school, and in the athletic parking lot, they're going to surround the bus and surround the parking lot. You can make some signs, you can come cheer them on and send them off so they can go play some soccer and do great things.
What time?
It should be right
3:40.
3:40. Okay.
I would probably say 30.
Okay. All right. And Sonia, is it any age group for clothing, or is it for high school students?
I think it's any age. I would have to check, but
Okay.
if you have like children's clothes, just like let me know and I'll ask about it. But I think it's mainly like adult sizing.
Okay. Thank you. Calendar notes, recognition, Dave.
Perfect. I wanted to start out with just a congratulations to all of our activities and sports teams, the football team, the volleyball teams, our soccer teams. It's been fun to see them compete on the fields and in the gyms, and we're coming to the end of that season. We start our next seasons in the next couple of weeks, but first I just wanted to congratulate everybody on that. And then our boys team made it several games into the playoffs. It was fun to watch them. They were an exciting team. But like everybody else, I think the sincere congratulations goes to our women's soccer team right now. I've had a chance to watch them several times, and they're a great team. They play great defense and have good goal scorers. It's really a fun brand of soccer to watch. So I just want to, again, they started with a win over South Salem, and then they had a courageous win in overtime against Jesuit. And then the win, yeah, exactly. And then the win against Sherwood puts them in the semifinals against Beaverton. So it's really an exciting set of a competition for them. And again, everyone's already talked about it, but they're going to do a send-off tomorrow at 3:45. So be there a little bit early, but should be a lot of fun. I'm going to share my screen. I want to just talk briefly about where we're at each week. I tend to try to review where we're at with COVID right now. So this is our current epi curve for the state of Oregon. What you can see here is, again, we continue to drop. We're dropping at a fairly steady rate right now, which is great. We've seen in our county, this is the 7-day moving average. And again, while it's not dropping precipitously, it is continuing to go down. That's what we're looking for. We've seen the county, I think, is up over 80% vaccinated. So again, there's a lot of positive things moving for us right now. This is Washington County here. Again, this is the total number of cases in dark blue. The light blue is our the number we've been using for the last 2 years, which is cases per 100,000 over 2 weeks. Again, we continue to decrease. We're just not actually decreasing a lot right now. We're about 220. The last time I got a reading on this was last week. We were about 220 cases per 100,000. In the middle of July, at the best time before it started increasing, we were under 50. Gives you just a little bit of an indication of kind of where we're at and where we're trying to get to. Again, this is our pediatric cases. In Oregon, we're continuing to drop from our high during the middle of September. Our cases in our school have gone down. We were averaging around 20. We were fewer than that the last time I looked when we sent it out on Friday. So again, we're continuing to see some good things going on here, and we haven't been seeing significant spread inside of our schools. So I feel pretty good. The last time we talked to Dr. Graven at OHSU, he was not forecasting a surge, and that's still what I know. About the only thing that I would tell you that has me a little bit worried is this graph. And this is a measure of what the COVID cases per million people in different countries. And in particular, what we're seeing is in this November, we're seeing a pretty strong surge in Europe. And the only reason I bring this up is because of the last time, again, England was the place where Delta started. And we saw, it came to us after. They were in the spring and it's hit us in August. And so this is just something that we're beginning to kind of pay attention to is, well, what's going on in Europe and why are they seeing a large increase? I don't have any reason to think that we're headed in that direction, but certainly this came out today. And so just wanted to put it on our screen there to kind of spend a little time thinking about. Questions around kind of our current situation with COVID before I move on. Okay. Lastly, I just wanted today, sixth graders from Tom McCall, including several Forest Grove's online academy students, enjoyed a beautiful day at Hag Lake, facilitated by Northwest Outdoor Science School. So this is kind of our outdoor school experience this year. I can't imagine a better day to have outdoor school, but they had several groups. There was laughing, there was lots of science being talked about. So just wanted to kind of give you some good news for us of some of the things that were happening today. The teachers that were out there, and then the kids all getting ready to kind of get back on the buses and come back. And that's kind of what's going on in the district right now. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Dave. We'll move on to unscheduled public appearances. The board appreciates community members sharing information during the public comments. Public comments should be submitted through the designated form and will be read by district staff or registered Zoom participants who indicated through the form they wanted to provide their comment live. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, as is the protocol for board meetings. Public criticism or complaints about school district personnel are not allowed at this time. When it is your time to share your live comment, your name will be called and district staff will connect you to the meeting. Please state your name and relationship to the district before you read your comment. A district staff will be timing the comments. They will alert you with 1 minute remaining. The question and answer is available if you're having technical problems, but is not for public comment. Are there any comments that will be given live?
No, Kate, we have 2 that I can read, but we do not have any that have requested to do them live.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the first one is from Amy Patton. Dear FGSD board, per your banner on the website, you state, with the continued rise in COVID-19 cases due to the highly contagious Delta variant, the board meeting will be held virtually to help lower the amount of risk to our community. The board will continue to assess based on current positive case rates to determine when to return to in-person meetings, close quote. Washington County now has one of the highest vaccination rates in Oregon. Test positivity rates and cases are in a dramatic decline. Most Washington County school boards are meeting in person. Portland Public Schools has been meeting in person since the summer when cases were much higher. Please explain why you have not returned to in-person school board meetings. Please explain at what positive case rates will you determine to return to in-person? Thank you.
So Kate, before you go, I just wanted to clarify a couple of things on that one, which is Portland Public is actually not in person. They are digital. Banks is in digital. Beaverton is only accepting digital public comment. I think they are meeting as a board. The Sherwood is meeting as a board live, but they're not allowing any public comment that isn't virtual. So I just wanted to kind of clarify some of the districts around us are not all in person. There are several. Tiger Tualatin is still meeting in person, but just wanted to kind of clarify where the rest of the school districts are on that.
Dave, I wonder if it would be a good idea just to respond to her in writing then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2 is from Angela Gunther. It says, as a parent of 2 kids in FGSD, I am concerned with mask wearing all day. When I emailed, a board member reassured me that kids get 2 mask-free recesses. I don't know if this is true. My kids are in middle and high school and do not get recesses. I have also seen kids on the playground at elementary schools masked. Masks are not risk-free, and I am concerned with health issues related to mask wearing. I asked the board to advocate for parent choice for masks. I asked the board to resist future mandates that restrict choice, including potential vaccine mandates. It is the parent's job to make healthcare decisions for their children, not the school or the government. I request that the board, as elected representatives of the parents, advocate for parent choice and informed consent. I also request that parents and school board members are able to meet in person. Thank you for your time.
David, do we have a name?
Yes, that was Angela Gunther.
Thank you.
And I did respond to her, and I thought I put in there that at the elementary level, the kids have morning and afternoon recess. So that may be my mistake. I don't really know what happens at the middle schools, if they have a recess in the morning or afternoon. So
as well, we called the high school to kind of check in on this, and here's kind of what we learned from them, which is now in the cafeteria during lunch, kids bring their masks down to eat their lunch. We've got them. There's like 4 folks to a table now, so they've done some distancing. But again, secondary kids, they are in a close proximity. I mean, trying to keep them socially distanced is pretty much an impossible task. They've also added 2 tents at the rear of the cafeteria that are also open. When kids go outside, they can take those masks down. When I've been over at the high school, kids who are moving from one side, like the gym, towards the front of the building, when they go outside, they'll take their mask down. When I talk to the administration, again, kids who need a mask break, again, they can talk to their teachers and they can get a mask break. And if as a parent, they're wanting more of that, I would just have them contact either the administrator or the teacher, at all levels, really. The idea here isn't to, it's again, I'm sure that at times kids are needing a mask break and we want to get that to them. I will say that again, as I walk around the schools, we were in there judging the culinary contest last week, and kids are for the most part doing well with the masks, and the staff and everybody else who's masked up during most of their day.
any questions?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Narsa, I just wanted to say that I'm happy to hear that about taking a break, a mask break. One of my daughters is doing her teacher practicum in the Hillsborough district, and she said it works out really well for the elementary kids to ask for a mask break. So they set it up with a little bench, and there's trees and that sort of thing, so the kids can get some fresh air. So I'm glad that we're doing the same.
Thank you, Narcy. Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is made up of routine, non-controversial items to be voted on under one motion. Are there any items within the consent items a board member or the superintendent wishes to discuss separately? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Moved.
A second?
Sure.
Okay, and any discussion? All right, Narcy,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. Tonight we have two presentations, literacy and math update, and that will be the first one.
Thank you, Kate. I'll go ahead and share my screen, if that's okay. So as you know, the board recalls we just gave a presentation on the fall data assessment as we're coming out of the pandemic and returning to in-person instruction. So the board had some questions regarding how we're going to address the learning gaps that have occurred during that time period. So tonight's presenters, I'm going to be joined by Elena Santana, our district literacy coordinator and Title I-A coordinator. She's oversees our district literacy program and supports. Miss Brenda Lindsay, district K-6 math, STEM, and health facilitator. And Miss Allison Samuel, district 712 math facilitator. So again, this presentation is a follow-up to the fall 2021 benchmark assessments that we shared last time in reading and math. We're going to recap strategies to teach reading and math that teach grade level content and address the learning loss resulting from the impact of the pandemic. So, Ms. Santana.
Thanks. Hi, guys. Apologize for not being here last board meeting. I was with the adoption team. We were in a work session. So, and Kate got to be a part of that, I think, for the first part anyways. So I'm glad to be back and see all of you. I think this slide is just a review of what John presented last time, but just to reiterate, this is not new information, I don't think, to any of the board members as far as literacy supports for tiers 1 through 3. We're using, I guess I'm just reiterating this because we are using the same things that we've used in prior years, but we're having to be very creative and think outside the box as far as how we use them. Because as you know, school this year is not in any way how we're used to doing school. So we are still using STAR, EDEL, EasyCBM, Acadians, and those are all our K-6 reading assessments for phonics and for comprehension. We're still giving writing work samples to progress monitor writing skills, and we're still conducting 100% and 20% data meetings. This is not the right slide, I don't think.
Here, I'll jump back.
Sorry. But what we're having to do a little bit differently at tier 2 and 3 is we're having to think outside the box as far as what interventions we're going to use with kiddos. We have to think really creatively right now as far as how we're going to meet the staff need, because we have, as you know, we on any given day, we have staff in and out, and we have sub shortages. And so being able to provide consistent intervention and or support to kids in classes has been, I mean, I won't sugar, it's been a real struggle. Providing intervention and or extension to kiddos takes training and expertise and experience. And so it's really hard to be able to deliver day after day on that when we have kind of such an ebb and flow of staff coming in and out of the buildings. So we've had to be very creative as far as a push-in model or a pull-out model for intervention or extension. We've had more teachers trained in interventions than we've had in previous years. Teachers are trying to think very creatively as far as how they're providing small group instruction in the classroom. So this work is still happening in tier 2 and tier 3. But like I said, we are having a lot of conversation as far as how can we possibly do this differently. So we have the least amount of disruption to kiddos in the services that we're providing them. So when we're looking at grade level literacy content and standards-based instruction with a wide range of learning needs. So this is the topic of conversation in every building I go to, in every group of teachers and principals I talk to is, how are we going to provide grade level content, standards-based instruction when we have kids in our classroom that have such a diverse and wide range of literacy skill need. It's really challenging. And so in our traditional model of whole group and small group, we've had to really talk through, okay, what is critical in whole group? Okay, in whole group, it is critical that we're teaching grade level standards and that we're using grade level anchor text. That's critical. And the research tells us that the only way we're going to get kids caught up is if we continue to expose them to grade level content and grade level anchor text. So then we have to talk through like, okay, how does that provide, how are we going to provide that? And so we've been talking a lot about scaffolds. I'll get to that in a moment, but our conversations have been around our kids in our classroom. We have a wide range of need. We have kids that are above grade level. We have kids that are reading at below grade level. But that doesn't mean that just because we have kids in our classroom that are reading at lower levels, they're not low level thinkers. And so we've really been trying to focus on how do you develop oral language, comprehension, vocabulary, those high critical thinking skills. You don't need to be able to read at grade level to be able to be a critical thinker. And so we've been having to really challenge ourselves with thinking through, okay, what does your instruction look like? It's hard, it's really hard, but it's not impossible. So the literacy coaches and myself have been meeting with principals, with teachers, with grade level teachers in different buildings and trying to really talk through this. And then that independent work time and small group, we're really still trying to focus on that is the time when either kids that are above grade level are getting extension, they're reading texts at higher levels, and then those kiddos that need more explicit and systematic phonics, they're receiving that explicit phonics instruction during that small group time. And so when we get to scaffolds, that is kind of the bread and butter of what we have to do in our literacy block. And scaffolds is one of those things where easier said than done. Scaffolds can be really tricky. If you've ever, like anyone who's been an educator knows when you try to provide scaffolds to kiddos in the classroom, it might seem really straightforward. Oh, just use a graphic organizer. But when you're looking at your data and you realize that you have like really legitimately 4 to 5 different like groups of kids in your classroom based on the data, it gets really difficult. And it takes a lot of planning and a lot of time to think through, okay, how am I going to use these scaffolds strategically and intentionally? And how is it actually going to make a difference? And kids will be able to access grade level content, which is the ultimate goal, right? So this is the work that our literacy coaches and myself have been talking through. We're going to provide some support, as much support as teachers want or need, and what do scaffolds look like in the classroom? Anything from sitting down and helping them actually plan their lessons to looking at the data, talking about which scaffolds would be most appropriate. We're running into a lot, the challenge in first and second grade, kids are coming in knowing some of their sounds, but they don't know their letter names, right? And so we've been talking through like, okay, you don't need to know your letter names to be able to start reading, but that does eventually come into play. Like eventually at some point you have to learn letter names. So we've been talking through like, okay, if a kiddo can identify a sound by seeing it, so they see the R and they know it goes but they don't know yet that R, the written R is then we need to have some visuals in the classroom to help us with that. So we've been just talking through different scaffolds and way to implement those. Next slide is 3.6. These are additional scaffolds that are more tailored toward the upper grades. Sentence frames, accountable talk time for students. We're really trying to focus on oral language because again, you don't need to be a grade level reader to be able to speak and talk about the text and talk about big ideas and share your critical thinking. So we're trying to find as many ways as possible to keep kids engaged and keep them part of this ongoing learning at grade level without necessarily being able to access themselves the grade level text. Just lots of conversations and I mean, honestly, just trying to think outside the box. But this is the specific support that coaches and myself will be providing buildings and any teacher that wants help trying to figure out, okay, what do scaffolds really actually look like in my classroom? Help me figure it out. Come model it for me, please. And then give me feedback when my kids may or may not be progressing like I anticipate. That's what we're going to be focusing on the most this year.
Thank you, Elena.
Mm-hmm.
Now for math.
Actually, we're still in literacy, 7-12. I am not the literacy specialist, but I am the specialist that works at the secondary schools, and we are using similar ideas across all content areas. So in literacy in the 7 through 12, they do have common assessments. They're using the STAR as their benchmark. The big work in the secondary schools is around PLCs. And in those PLCs, they're focusing on common assessments, student achievement, interventions and extensions, and general best practices for instruction. They're still doing writing work samples at the middle school and high school. And in tier 2, that intervention and extension is after each formative and summative assessment. And that's what PLCs are really spending a lot of their time working on right now, is coming up with those intervention and extension activities so that after an assessment, whether it's formative or summative, they can really split the class up and have the group that needs intervention and still needs extra support to learn that essential standard, and the students who seem to have that standard down and they can do an extension activity. We generally try to make those extension activities somewhat self-directed, where the students are able to follow along and do the extension activities fairly independently or in small groups, so that the teacher's focus can be on the students who need intervention. There's opportunities for reteaching during class, as well as at NAMS, they have an academic advisory. And then at both schools, the high school and the middle school, students can retake to achieve proficiency on lesson objectives. Our tier 3 interventions in literacy, there's reading workshop that uses the language live program, and that is a required elective at the middle school and the high school for students whose STAR assessment shows that they need severe intervention in literacy. And then we also at the high school have an English support class that it's an elective that students can choose to take if they feel like they need more support in their English class.
Thank you, Allison. Okay, K6, Brenda, math.
Okay, thank you. So in K6 math, we are fortunate enough to have a common curriculum throughout the district. And that leads to a lot of benefits like the common formative, summative, and benchmark assessments. And that also has goals in both the lesson goals and the exit tasks. We have goals of 75% or higher, and we can come to common agreements as to what happens when students aren't achieving at those goals. I've now had the opportunity to meet with PLCs in every building in our district for grades 3 through 6. We were able to take a look at our priority standards. We looked at the common assessments, we looked at student achievement, and we talked about best practices for instruction. And that really led to some great conversations, because it's now best practices for instruction based on where our kids are really at. And that was some challenging conversations for a lot of grade levels. We kind of started talking about the fact that we still need to teach the grade level content, but we have to scaffold and support them. And like Elena said, that's not easy. So we started talking about how we could put in mini lessons and what specific grade level supports we could put in to make sure that every child can access the grade level content. They've done so much tremendous work. They've done the Avid notes. They've done all sorts of things in 3 through 6, and then also different scaffolds in K through 2, just to make sure kids are able to still access grade level content. So at tier 2, we've had opportunities for reteaching for students who don't meet the lesson goals on exit tasks. And we also have opportunities to retake proficiencies just like they do in 7 through 12 when students aren't meeting those lesson objectives. We have small group pullouts and we have material for teaching those small group pullouts, but really the challenge, and I think Elena said it, consistent staffing. We have the people to train those staff members, but they're not always available, and that, they're being pulled. And so then that may be what gets canceled during the day. And unfortunately, if we don't have consistency there, it's hard to provide that on a regular basis.
Hey, Brenda, it's Brad.
Yeah.
Hey, is the tier 3 instructional assistants that are providing that instruction? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, it really depends by building. So for example, I've worked with Tom McCall's staff, and we have specialists that can do pullouts, but then we also have students who maybe are below grade level and their IAs can come and work in small groups. Or maybe that's a time where the teacher can work with small groups if the kids can do some independent like reflex or fracs, which are kind of student directed, self-paced learning activities that most of the class can do. We can do that independently.
Right.
And that's a great time for the teacher to provide those opportunities.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So it really differs building to building.
Okay, 712. Allison. Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah.
So math supports in 712 are similar to the literacy supports. As I said, the PLC process is across content areas at the middle school and high school. So they do have their common formative, summative, and benchmark assessments. And the PLCs have those same foci that I mentioned for the literacy. The intervention extensions after each formative and summative assessment is what takes the majority of the time in the PLCs, because they're having to create some materials that they've never had to use before. So similar to elementary, we have a much wider range of students in our classes, even though math tends to be a little bit more leveled than a lot of other subject areas. There's still a large range of students and student skills within those classes. So they are fully implementing interventions and extensions at the high school. NAMS is still in the development process. And they're doing that for every single formative assessment for every essential standard.
Allison, this is Brad again. What does development mean at NAMS?
So NAMS is in the process of, they are looking at their data, they understand the need for intervention extension, and they're in the process of developing those activities, but they're not all the way ready to actually bring to students yet. So they're still in the development stage, whereas at the high school, they've developed them and are developing them on the fly, but they're actually in students' hands and are doing them actively with students at this time.
Okay, so right now at NAMS, we don't have that in place.
Not with consistency, no. There are a few teachers that are ready to do it, but as a whole, no, they don't have that in place yet.
Is there a timeline for getting that done?
The PLC work at NAMS started in earnest just a few weeks ago, whereas the high school started right during pre-service. So they are about a month or two behind the high school. So I would anticipate around Christmas break time, them being able to start actually rolling those out to students.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then the tier 3 at the middle school, we have math intervention classes, which are a required elective for students whose IAP scores have shown they are at risk. We don't have enough math intervention sections for every student that actually is in the risk category. So we have filled the classes, and at semester, we are hoping that we have a group that will test out based on their IAP scores so that we can bring a new group in. We have after school programs at both the high school and the middle school with busing, which is a prime commodity right now, so that we can provide some more extension and intervention through CLC. And then at the high school, there's also a math support elective that students can choose to take to get more support with their math class.
So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Curriculum Instruction Department responses to board member questions.
Hey, John.
That were raised.
Before we go on, I just wanted to, Brad's question, I just got to, Juliana just let me know that their staff is rolling out leveled lessons already. So this is starting to happen in classes.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep.
Awesome. So again, these are responses to last that board members asked. So in K6 math, Brenda.
So the first question was, how do we provide extensions when most of our students are struggling academically? And in K6 math, we not only have reteach opportunities with every Think Central lesson in our curriculum, but we also have enrichment opportunities. And those are easily accessible to the teacher for either group. We also have online the animated math models available at grade level, below grade level, and above grade level for every student and every teacher. And the nice thing about the animated math models is it's not just an activity, it's a mini lesson and it's time for independent practice, but it gives the student immediate feedback so they know that they're doing it right or that they need to check in with the teacher. And so in some ways, that's a nice addition for students who need an extension. There's also performance tasks available with every chapter and every standard within our curriculum. And those are available both online or offline. And I've seen some teachers do great work using those performance task activities for collaboration with peers. We do have achievement goals on our exit tasks, and our kids generally know what those goals are. I mean, teachers are doing a great job, you know, showing kids where they're supposed to be at, and kids are doing a great job evaluating themselves. One nice thing our curriculum does offer for differentiation is it offers online subgrouping within the roster. So I can give the same assignment to everyone, or I can run through and say, okay, this half of the class will be on this assignment and it's got an extension built in, and this half of the class will be, you know, taking a few less questions, but on the same grade level concept. Then we also, and I think we've talked about this a couple times, but we have those online programs such as Reflex for fact fluency. We just purchased Frax this year for grades 3 through 6, which talks about fractions using number sense. And it really allows kids to learn from the online program and provides them independent practice at their pace and level. And it gives the teachers immediate feedback as well.
Thank you, Brenda. Grade 7-12 math.
So at the secondary level, as I mentioned before, those extension activities that are being created are designed to be more self-directed so that there's minimal need for teacher assistance during that extension time so that the teacher can focus on the students who need intervention. Those extensions in math specifically tend to be more complicated problems or real-world applications of what's being taught in class. And occasionally it's actually material that has been cut from the course due to a lack of time or the fact that we need to spend more time on some of the more major concepts. And so sometimes they can pull in some of the concepts that we've had to cut for an extension activity for students.
Okay, next question. When using exit tasks, are there opportunities to reteach? Brenda, for grades K-6 math.
Yeah, and really, thank you for asking that question, because finding time is one of the most challenging things a teacher has. I mean, finding the time to get it all done. However, our curriculum does provide quick exit tickets, and there are 2 questions. The kids know the goals, they get immediate feedback, they can see what they answered, what the correct answer was. It also has read aloud features for our K2 students. And so once those exit tasks are turned in, and quite often as a teacher, I would do them at the last, say, 20 minutes of class. And then I would have my kids practice in Reflex or Frax, or now it would be Frax also. But you have those kids run in those online independent programs, and then you're pulling those kids back that need that reteach instruction in small group at a time when you as the teacher don't have to manage the entire class at a level that you would if you were giving instruction. Reflex does really free up the teacher quite a bit. Also, some teachers are saying, well, instead of doing it at that time, they like to take the exit ticket results, review those, and then deal with them in the next morning during warm-up time. They can pull a small group and work with them. So there's multiple times. And then also independent practice during Think Central time is a great time to pull small groups back, work with them on the results you're seeing. So.
Excellent. And then when using exit tasks, are there opportunities to reteach, again, grades in 7-12?
So we do have common exit tickets or formative assessments at the 7-12 with a common goal of achievement. And the student feedback is either immediate if we're using a digital platform such as MyHRW, or if they're using a Google form. or it's given, feedback is given the next class block. Intervention extension is usually done the next class block, just for the need to go through the scores and figure out what our groups are going to be. And so that's when they have those self-directed extensions while the teacher is giving support in interventions. A formative assessment is given again after an intervention is done to make sure that the intervention worked and was successful. And we consider that it's successful if at least 80% of the class is proficient in that specific standard. If it wasn't successful, we repeat the process again the next day. And again, this kind of ties into where we were talking about having to cut material. We've really looked at what are our major clusters, our major standards that need to be covered, and what are things that if we can get to them, that would be really nice, but our students can be successful in the next course. Our students can be successful in other courses with the major standards, and the supporting standards can be extensions for the students who have time and the capacity to deal with those. But that intervention extension cycle is part of why we've had to cut some material.
Thank you. Next question. We need to let teachers do what they need to do during PLC time. So what we've said is professional learning communities, PLCs, are key to making instructional-based decisions using formative and summative assessment results. PLCs are designed to answer Rick DeFore's 4 main questions. First, what is it we all want students to learn? Second, how will we know if each student has learned it? Third, how will we respond when some students do not learn it? And fourth, how can we extend and enrich the learning for students who have demonstrated proficiency? Again, these are right in line with the questions that were raised by board members in our last board meeting. And PLCs are critical, ensuring the instructional alignment planning and communication takes place to ensure day-to-day activities run smoothly across the core content areas.
John, can I add on to that just a little bit?
Absolutely.
So on the PLC time, letting teachers do what they want to do, we have guided those PLCs around those 4 guiding questions. But what I've noticed after meeting with every single school, K-6, is that those groups are asking, many of those groups are asking for additional time to come back and further dig deeper into it, or what are the next steps, or how do we write our goals around this? So in a lot of times, I think we are letting them do what they need to do based on the fact that they're asking for more time after we meet with them to do the next steps in the process.
So I have a question. So you said that's K-6. What about 7-12? What do they say about that?
Allison.
So 7-12, PLCs again is something that historically we have asked for more time for, and it's always, we have some sit time on Wednesdays, but we also have professional development and other meetings that have to take place. And the administration at both NAMS and the high school have really put a focus on PLC time so that teachers can work together in planning. And during that PLC time, they're focusing on unit planning. So their essential standards, their timelines and materials, prerequisite skills, proficiency and mastery indicators, and then common formative and summative assessments. And then, so there is kind of a template at the 7-12 that they're using to write that information down so that everyone in the PLC can see it. Anyone that teaches the class in the future will have access, and then the administration also has access to see that. And then there's the formative and summative data analysis. So they have different ways that they can collect the data, and I've helped a lot of the PLCs create Google Sheets to make it really easy for teachers to analyze the data without having to crunch a bunch of numbers themselves. And then again, that focus on DeFore's 4 questions, and that leads to their intervention extension. Again, there are a couple of forms that 7-12 is using to write down what they're doing in that PLC process, but really the time is that what teachers need to do their planning and to do their data analysis, which they need to do for their instruction. The only PLC that is struggling more with this is our CTE program, partly because they don't teach anything in common. They all have their own individual one teacher teaches welding, one teacher teaches woods, one teacher teaches computer science. And so they're struggling a little bit more in the PLC process, just because of the nature of what they teach and the fact that they don't have as much commonality as the other departments have. But they are still looking at good teaching practices, and they're looking at professional skills during that time as their common thing to look at for data.
How often do they get PLC meeting time? Is that weekly?
It depends on the building. So at NAMS, it's about every other week on Wednesday sit time. And then individual PLCs also have their own meeting time set up. At the middle school, the departments have common prep. So everyone in the math department, for instance, has prep during fourth period. A lot of the PLCs are choosing to meet during that time. Some of them choose to meet after school or before school, because honestly, the 2 Wednesdays a month isn't enough time for them to get all of their work done. At the high school, it is 3 out of 4 sit days in a month, approximately. So the first sit day in the month is for professional development or other building tasks, and all of the rest of them for the month are devoted to PLC time. And then both buildings during our professional development / grading days have given large chunks, if not all of that professional development time, to be PLC time instead of new professional development.
Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Allison. Next question. If 2 teachers are teaching the same class at the same time, could they move between them based on student need?
So this one is what some of the discussion that happens in those PLC meetings. And we do have PLCs that are currently doing this, especially after summative assessments. They will get together as a PLC. We really have a need for this standard and this standard. So teacher A, you're going to take the group that needs standard 1, and teacher B, you're going to take the group that needs standard 2, and teacher C, you're going to take the kids that are ready for some extension. And they will do a 1-day intervention extension reteach opportunity by splitting up the kids in that way. Social distancing and cohorting are things that get a little tricky with that, because we have to make sure that we are documenting where the kids are going and who they're sitting next to when we do mix them, which is why we don't do it necessarily after every formative, but some PLCs do choose to do this after their summative assessments.
So at this time, we have time for additional questions. And I just want to also reinforce a couple of themes that are kind of challenges that you heard here this evening. First of all our teachers are working very, very hard each and every day in light of all these COVID challenges that are presented. Also, congratulations to this team. They've been working very hard. Big challenges. Yes, we have plans for tier 2 and tier 3 interventions, and even, tier 1 core instruction. However, when we have increased levels of substitutes, as well as staff being pulled to cover courses that are uncovered, that has been a real challenge. Kevin and Dave have done an excellent job getting some of our classified staff that are qualified to provide sub coverage, that ability. But it has been very challenging. So we could have interventions identified in the morning for literacy or math for tier 3, yet if we don't have staff, they've been pulled to cover classes, then they do not occur. The other challenge, as you heard again tonight, is transportation. We're very fortunate. We have enough bus drivers to continue to support our CLC operations at Neil Armstrong and Tom McCall, and we've integrated some intervention supports during that time. However, as I shared with the board, Title IV, we've written a plan to ODE, which normally is extended day after school tutoring. We can't, there's no transportation for grades PK 4, just like several other districts. It's a real challenge. So those are some issues that we're having to deal with. And are there additional questions for either Elena or Allison or Brenda or I.
Well, I don't think this is going to go away, John, with the shortage of teachers and that. And I think you remember a number of years ago, there was a school that was down, I forget it, I forget where exactly it was. I'll have to look at my notes. But they went and took a group of retired seniors and taught them how to provide extra support. And of course, you don't have any extra people to, do that training. But I do think that down the road, I don't think this is going to disappear next year. I think we're going to be struggling with lack of enough teachers in that. So my thought is, I don't want to add anything to your plate, but I'm thinking that you guys have to think outside the box. We have a lot of retired teachers in Forest Grove. And so put a plan together on how we could maybe help them. And definitely we could do something Zoom with online to help, because it's just a breakout group and they wouldn't necessarily be in contact with kids, but that may help in the reading, but it also might help with math. The other is, and you're probably doing this, is the retired teacher. I'm not retired, but students at Pacific, like, maybe they could go over to Neil Armstrong and be an extra body in a morning math class and take some of those kids. I know you're already thinking of these things, but I'm concerned. I did have a question about the reflex and the fraction. Are those classes online?
Those are software programs that are integrated into the core classroom. They are fact fluency, highly repetition, and teachers can integrate them the last 15 minutes of the day. And we can also integrate them into the support classes. Brenda, how'd I do?
You did pretty good, but I'm going to add a little more because I will tell you, as a math teacher who taught third grade, when Reflex came into my classroom, it was like you just gave me 15 minutes where I'm not just giving my children an activity, I'm giving them a meaningful activity at their level, but where I do not have to micromanage the crowd and I can go work with a small group who needs more intensive instruction. And it was wonderful. And then we had an amazing third grade teacher pilot Frax last year, and she said the same thing. And she piloted Frax, which teaches fractions as numbers and basic number sense within fractions. And she did this before she taught the fraction unit. And she said, all of a sudden, I love teaching fractions because they understood the basics before we started getting into it. And we've also used that now at some of our upper grades because the fractions were some of the biggest holes missing in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. So we've brought those in.
Yeah. So Brenda, can they access them at home for practice?
Absolutely. Both programs can be accessed at home.
Okay.
Reflex was accessed during CDL.
Okay.
It starts at grades 2 through 6 for Reflex and 3 through 6 for Frax. Although we have had some students as young as kinder. And please don't say, I'm not saying we bring this out to all our kindergarten students because they're not already. But there are a few kids in every kindergarten class who are ready to have that extension available to them.
Oh, that's great.
We've also brought those programs up into the middle school at NAMS in our math intervention classes. So students that are already designated at high risk that are in math intervention, we saw a need for math fact fluency and fraction fluency with those students. And so we've brought it up to 7 and 8 for those math intervention students as well.
Well, thank you very much. Does the board have any other questions for the team?
I would only have one comment. You've been around I've been around for a while, and you listen to what teachers are doing and what the systems are in place. I guess I'm just at some level, I know we're not going to have any answers tonight, but tell me what's happening at the student level. Are we making progress? We baseline at the beginning of the year, we bring the kids in, we have the assessments that we go through. At some level, are we making progress? Because the adults are going through all the teachers and the adults are have these systems in place. Are we making progress? That's the question I have.
So I think there's an interesting, right before the pandemic, they were running this at Tom McCall with the 5th grade. And maybe Brenda, you could just tell a little, I mean, it was right before we went into this whole pandemic and we were starting to get some initial results back. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
I'd be happy to, but it kind of makes me sad because these teachers were doing this amazing work. And this was the year we started the 5th and 6th grade PLCs and everything. I mean, these teachers were, they were specialists. They had 90-minute math blocks. They were running their PLCs. The work was phenomenal. I mean, just phenomenal. And I had the teachers in March, right before we shut down. We had this meeting, and I think it might have been the day we found out we were shutting down, where we realized this was our SBAC prep PLC. We were going to talk about how to prep for, and for the first time, they all came together and said, we've taught every priority standard before SBAC. We're ready to go. They were like, and when we shut it down, teachers were emailing me saying, you mean we're not going to take SBAC because our kids are like, they're ready to go. And it was a sad day.
So if I could just point out one, a recent development, back to the personnel challenges that we faced, partially to answer Brad's question. This has been the most challenging year with quarantining of staff, quarantining of students, quarantine of staff's kids, as well as, just the regular staff needs. We've really pared back on pulling teachers out for professional development. In fact, in C&I, haven't pulled anybody out during the day. But we just had a teacher resign at the high school for AP. And again, Allison is pulled out of her coaching role to provide this kind of support because there is nobody else qualified to pick up those periods. So I just wanted to illustrate that once again. We have plans in place. This is the most challenging time I've ever seen it in 33 years of executing those plans.
So you know what I'm going to say, John, don't you? So if we're in a challenging time, so get a baseline on where we are, figure out where we're moving and what our goals are, and move forward. And I understand the challenges. I just think that at some point, you just have to come up with a plan for moving forward. So, and it sounds like you all have, and it would be nice for the board to know where we are as a district in terms of math and literacy, in terms of baseline scores. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and we presented those in the last meeting, and this meeting we're kind of talking through the intervention aspect of it. Like I said, I think we have indications from 2 years ago that done well, I think we can move the dial here where we will see, we have a winter benchmarks and we have the spring benchmarks, the spring SBAC. So we'll know a little bit more kind of where we end up on it. But that's kind of what I was, the point I was trying to make, and agreed. We know where the kids are at. It doesn't look good. And now we're off and rolling, trying to get them what they need.
I would say too that the PLC process, and that we're trying to bring to all of the departments and all of the buildings, the intervention extension piece is a lot of work on the teacher's part, and they were kind of resistant to it at first just because of the workload. But I've had a lot of anecdotal comments from teachers. Wow, it was amazing. Like my formative assessment, when I first gave it, like half my class still wasn't there, but I did that intervention extension and I'm at 90%, and they're really excited about it now. And it's not so much of I have to do this intervention extension thing that the district or the administrator is telling me to do. They're actually starting to see the value of that and watching it work. So I'm really excited and feel like we are moving forward where we are going to see some data that's going to back up what we're doing.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. Any other questions for the team? Thank you, each and every one of you, for taking the time. I know it was another extra extra activity that you're already overwhelmed, but thank you so much. It's very helpful.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah. The next presentation is the student investment account review. And Eileen, is that going to be you, Eileen?
It'll be David.
Oh, it's David. Okay.
And this is for last year, which David will start talking about, but it's part of our requirements with the state.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right here, and then we can get going. So thank you very much. Superintendent Parker asked if I could walk the board through where we ended up. It's a requirement from ODE to, they've kind of broken us up on a quarterly basis. We need to update them. And then at the very end of the first year, they'll ask us to do an end of the year summary. So that's kind of why we're here tonight, to walk you through this. There we go. Just a little bit of background. I think everyone's pretty familiar with what SIA is, but it's a grant-funded investment of close to $500 million going to all Oregon school districts. And the purpose was to meet students' mental and behavioral health needs and increase academic achievement and reduce academic disparity for students of color, students with disabilities, emerging bilingual students, students navigating poverty, homelessness, and foster care, and other student groups that have historically experienced academic disparities. Initially, when we kind of started this journey, the funding allocation for, the FGSD's part of that $500 million pie was about $5 million or $4.9 million. And, you know, I think we can all kind of harken back to that time where there was a lot of excitement around that to finally get that additional funding. And I can speak for the cabinet and everybody else that we were speaking to. There was a lot of excitement on the things that we were going to be able to do with that money. Then a little thing called COVID-19 pandemic hit, and so there had to be do a revised allocation. So we actually ended up getting about a third of that, or around $1.6 million. And so that caused the district to have to do some shuffling, some prioritization, shelving some projects, shelving some other things that we had initially outlined to ODE in the application process. As Superintendent Parker alluded, the purpose of me walking us through this is to fulfill a requirement from ODE to walk the board through this report and also have it available for the community to look at. It also provides the district an opportunity to reflect and learn from year one. And the annual report will be submitted to ODE at the end of the month. And what we'll do here is go through this, walk you through this report, answer any questions, and then next board meeting we'll have the approved minutes, and then that goes into the report, and we'll link that onto the website so anybody who's interested can review those materials. So the requirement is responding to these 4 questions, and I'll walk us through each one of these questions and show all of us kind of how we address these through our activities and goals throughout the process here. So our first question is, what is important for your community, including focal student groups, families, and educators to understand about your SIA implementation efforts during the 2021 school year and the positive impacts that have occurred? So as I alluded to, that we had to do some prioritization and make sure that we were focusing on the most important things. And one of those was mental and behavioral wellness. And with that pared back funding and having to shuffle the deck a little bit, it was decided to really kind of create the structure or the framework around a larger mental and behavioral wellness plan. And here we decided to move forward with a district behavioral health and wellness coordinator who would develop that district system of MTSS that supports that healthy school environment. Also, a counselor at Tom McCall, a student success coach focusing on social emotional learning that would ensure that students had that access to the SEL curriculum embedded into their instruction. And then also focusing on the multi-tier system of support software that helps track and coordinate critical student data. Another priority under this question was addressing the academic and opportunity gaps that exist for our English language learners. We began to address that with an ELD migrant and equity coordinator that would ensure that the underserved students received the dedicated support and attention that they needed. Additional staff at the PK through 4 level through ELD facilitators, supporting student achievement, language development, ELD coaches, working with our PK4 teachers on improving that core instruction and making that learning more accessible for the ELD students. And then finally, the other very important priority was to ensure that we're keeping that class size low and protecting that work, that hard work that the board has done over the past several years by adding FTE at the K6 level and additional classified support across the district. So that's question 1. Question 2, what barriers, impediments, or challenges to your SIA implementation have you faced or identified that are helpful for your community and/or state leaders to be aware of? The elephant in the room, COVID-19 pandemic, having that funding level decreased and forcing us to reprioritize and shelving some of the other ancillary or subcategories of activities that we wanted to do. On the flip side, with SIA and the ESSER funds combined with the general fund, the district was able to pivot to meet the student needs and to keep the class size low. So it was an impediment, but we hopefully are turning that into a positive. Question 3, what successes and challenges, if any, have you experienced in maintaining engagement? So parent engagement was a little bit of a mixed bag. There were some obstacles, but there are also some successes. No surprise with the COVID-19 having to rearrange everything on the moment's notice. No in-person meetings or activities. So that face-to-face time in person was severely limited. And again, that forced us to pivot and find immediate solutions to real problems that we had never dealt with before. Some of the successes that came out of those struggles were in the early days of the pandemic, with things literally changing day to day or week to week. Superintendent Parker was able to use that time to communicate the constant changes to parents so that they had the latest and greatest information, that they could make informed choices, and then we were informing them of choices that the district had to make on a district level and a building level and a teacher level and student level. Digital meetings offered a little bit more flexibility for families, was another positive or success that came out of this. Timing and transportation issues were, they used to be a very large barrier for a lot of our families. Those barriers lessened. I wouldn't say that they went away, but they were lessened with more opportunities to log on at different times and connect with teachers. Parent-teacher conferences was another positive, where we received feedback from both families and teachers that there was a lot of positives coming out from that. And with a sneak peek into this year, what we just got done with conferences, more of the same was there and had similar positive feedback. Another positive or success that came out of this was, and I think you've heard of us talking about this, is the Thought Exchange digital software platform that we have used. Other districts have used it as well, but it's been a good tool for the district to use to also kind of bridge that gap of not being able to have in-person meetings, but then even going further than that, allowing those individuals who might not feel comfortable to stand up and voice their opinion, or sometimes when you're in a larger group, there are those individuals who tend to have louder voices, and not necessarily volume, but more often will speak or can kind of command a room. So this kind of levels the playing field with this software, allows for anonymous participation. If I'm logging on there, I can share as many thoughts or ideas that I want to, and also have the opportunity to respond or rate other people's points that they're putting forth. Do I agree with them? How much do I agree with them, or do I disagree with them? And it just gives more individuals that opportunity to participate in important conversations. And we've used this software with students, we've used it with parents, we've used it with staff around different types of questions. Finally, question 4, please share your professional assessment of what guided your choices and prioritization efforts in the first year of SIA implementation. So this is a little bit of redundant, but I think it's important that, prior to the process, Superintendent Parker is well documented, was going out into the community with many meetings, meeting with students, with staff, with community members, with parents, on what were the priorities for them, for the district. And they really, kind of marry up very, very closely with the SIA priorities, which were mental and behavioral health and wellness, and then ELD literacy, math interventions, and then also ensuring that the school board's hard work to keep class size low was preserved. So those are the 4 required questions. Also wanted to give you a sneak peek into what's next. We're very excited that now that we will have that full funding level of close to $5 million, we can bring some of those activities that we shelved and bring those back into play and continue with the ones that we've done from last year. We're excited to be hiring more counselors. They're off and running, getting closer to that recommended counselor-student ratio of 250 to 1, where they can have more opportunity to work closer with students than they have in the past, where the caseloads were much, much larger. Under ELD, literacy and math TOSA and coaches, additional ELD teachers, math intervention teachers at NAMS, the ELKS math intervention software at NAMS. We're excited to look to enhance the music and PE after school activities, specifically at Echo Shaw and Cornelius, Tom McCall in the high school. And again, just continuing to make sure that we are keeping that class size low. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those, and anything that I can't answer, I'll make Mr. O'Neill answer for us. Just kidding, John.
Are there no questions for David? Okay, David, thank you very much. That was really informative. I appreciate it. Thank you. The next portion of the board is an action item, and this is about the American Education Week proclamation. The American Education Week will be observed nationally during the week of November 15th to the 19th. This is a wonderful opportunity to celebrate public education and honor individuals who are making a difference in ensuring every child receives a quality education. Attached is a proclamation that we are asking the board to adopt in recognition of American Education Week. Kathy, do you want me to read the whole thing or not? No? Brad shaking his head no. Huh?
I think you're good.
It's in the packet.
Yeah. You can read it though. It's not very long.
Okay, I'll read it. Education is a work of heart, whereas public schools are the backbone of our democracy, providing young people with the tools they need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equality. And whereas by equipping young Americans with both practical skills and broader intellectual abilities, schools give them hope for and access to a productive future. And whereas education employees, be they substitute teachers, custodians, nurses, teachers, bus drivers, support staff members, guidance counselors, or librarians, work tirelessly to serve our children and communicate with care and professionalism. And whereas, as schools are an important part of the community, bringing together adults and children, educators and volunteers, business leaders, and elected officials in a common enterprise. Now, therefore, the Forest Grove School District Board of Directors do hereby proclaim November 15th through the 19th, 2021, as the observance of American Educational Week. And it's a roll call vote. So I need a motion. I need a motion to approve the weekly proclamation.
So
Do I have
moved.
and a second?
Narcy?
Thank you, Narcy. Questions? Okay, Mark,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
Narcy,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. And Sonia, is she still on?
Yes.
Sonia's still on?
I am.
Okay.
I
Are
said
you a yes or a no?
yes.
Okay, thank you so much. And I don't know how we will sign this. Kathy, will you, do you sign this for us?
Yeah, I'll put your signatures in there and send them out to the schools.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Kathy, just a B in a straight line.
Okay, the next action item is the Oregon School Boards Association Board of Directors, position 15. The Oregon School Board Association is organized as one general state association with up to 23 elected representatives established across 14 geographic regions to support member participation and representation. Member boards also elect the Legislative Policy Committee and vote on the OSBA legislative policies and priorities. This year, the election window is between November 15th and December 17th, 2021. The OSBA board representative for position 15 had one candidate, Susan Greenberg from Beaverton School District. I will make the motion. I move to appoint Susan Greenberg to the Oregon School Board Association Board of Directors, position 15. Do I have a second?
Yes,
Second.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor, Mark,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
Narcy,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. The motion passes. The next action item number is, hold on a second while I pull it up here. Okay, this one is for position 15. And I'm not going to read the agenda item, the whole thing, because it's the same as the previous, but the OSBA Legislative Policy Committee for position 15 had one candidate, Mark Watson from Hillsborough School District. So do I have a motion?
So moved, Kate.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Questions, discussion? Okay, Brad,
Yes.
Second.
Val,
Yes.
Narcy,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. That motion passes. The next action item will be number, let me see, I have to pull it up here. This is for the Oregon School Boards Association Legislative Policy Committee, position number 16. OSBA Legislative Policy Committee for position 16 had one candidate, Becky, is it Timchuk from
Yes.
Beaverton School District?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion for this
Nope.
position?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Mark. A second?
Yep, I'll second.
Discussion? All right. Brad,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
Narcy,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, and that motion passes. The next candidate, I believe we have two for this one. Hold on a second, while I scroll through.
You only have one for the Board of Directors, position 20. It's 2 for the Legislative Policy Committee.
Okay. Okay, I think I'm on, this is, did I skip one? Is this one for T.J. Johnson, Kathy?
No, this is for Oregon School Boards Association Board of Directors, position 20, and it's Erica Lopez from Hillsborough School District.
Okay, okay.
So
All
moved.
right. So
I'll
moved?
second that.
Okay. Okay, thanks, guys. I would have to scroll back on my other computer.
You're fine,
Thank
Kate.
you. Okay.
You're doing good.
Discussion. Okay, we'll do a vote. Mark,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
and Narcy.
Yes.
And I'm a yes also, that motion passes. Okay, now this one is item number 6. And this is the Oregon School Board Association Legislative Policy Committee, position 20. And it has 2 candidates. It has T.J. Johnson from Gaston School District and Marvin Lynn from Tigard-Tualatin School District. I need a motion to need a motion for one of these candidates.
Yeah, I move we appoint Marvin Lynn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Okay, the motion is for Marvin Lynn from Tigard-Tualatin School District for position 20. Mark,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
Narcy,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. That motion passes that Marvin Lynn from Tigard has position 20. The next action item is the audit for the RFP Evaluation Committee. And I think that's Eileen.
Thank you, Kate. So tonight we have the audit RFP. Just to give a little bit of information on that, the last time we went out for an audit RFP was in 2016-17. It was for a 3-year term with 2 one-year extensions. So we are up with that term, and we are looking to publish a new RFP this month with it to close on January 13th. And then we would have 2 weeks to interview and score, and then it would go to the board on February 14th for approval. This, having it completed by February, allows us to be able to schedule our interim audit for March and start the new fiscal year audit with whatever the results are from this RFP. At this time, we're really seeking 1 to 2 board members to help serve on the district's RFP evaluation committee. We hope to hold that the week of January 19th.
Okay, so you need 2 candidates for that to serve?
1 or 2, yes.
Okay. Would one of the board's members like to do that? Brad, would you like to do that? Okay.
I'll volunteer.
Anyone else?
What's the time commitment on it?
It would be a few hours to go over the RFPs. So we'd be able to give them to you a couple of days in advance, and then we'd have a meeting to do all the scoring.
Yeah, I can do it too.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Do I make a motion to appoint Brad Befaro and Val?
Sure. And I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll vote. Val?
Yes.
Narcy?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Brad?
Yes.
And I'm a yes also. That motion passes. Okay, the next and last, I think, action item for tonight is a proposed change for the 2021-2022 school year calendar. And Dave, I believe you're going to present that.
Yeah, so Yeah, tonight I'm bringing to you a proposed change of the calendar, and I'm torn about this. With what's happened over the last year and a half, bringing you a calendar change that cuts student time, it's not really something that I want to do. It's coming to you a little bit late because I've been resisting this. But I'm kind of at a place now where there's some things that are going on that I'm going to go through here that I think kind of necessitate this change. My plan here is to kind of go through what the problem is. I'm going to make the recommendation. I know you've been asking me questions, and so I've got answers to all those questions. And then we can open it up for a discussion and kind of figure out where we want to go with this. So that's kind of my plan of how to move through this. As we've kind of talked about it this today, we've got a real staffing issues that are going on here. In the first 41 days of school, we've had 219 full or part-time licensed unfilled positions. Those aren't the ones that we got subs for. Those are the ones that we just did not have subs for. And they're licensed, so most of those, we still have to put somebody in the classroom. We had 106 full-day covers at the secondary level. And at the secondary level, when a teacher is absent and we don't fill it, it means that at the high school, it means we have to fill 3 periods with a sub. And at the middle school, we have to fill 6 periods with a sub. And so there's different places. I'm going to go through it next, kind of what our set of steps are. But what that means is that basically there's approximately 471 teachers or staff members who have had to cover secondary absences. And this is creating a real dynamic in our schools. People giving up their prep and to go cover other classes. We also have a situation where we've got 23 high school teachers who have given up their prep to work on the specialty AP and advanced courses for the online, for the kids that we have online at the high school. So we're already down 23 teachers because they're already giving up their prep to do that work. We've had 47 full-day covers and 17 half-day covers at the elementary. At the elementary level, when there's an unfilled absence, we have to cover the whole day. If it's a classroom teacher, then somebody's got to go into that classroom. Sometimes they pull from specialists. Sometimes it's our coaches coming out of the district office, but those are even more challenging. We've also had 171 unfilled classified positions. We've moved a bunch of our classified folks have qualified for substitute licenses. So we're using them. We're now pulling them to go into these unfilled subs. Here's kind of the set of steps we go through. First thing we try to do is fill the position through our the ESD's substitute service. That's job one. Second thing we do is we'll look at inside the school, they'll try and fill it with either specialist teachers or they'll try and fill it with other folks. Maybe it's specialists or title teachers, grades 7 through 12, they're trying to grab up specific prep periods from teachers. When that doesn't work, we look for classified staff who are approved to provide license coverage. We also have district TOSAs who will come out and go in and sub for teachers. When that doesn't work, our principals are stepping in and subbing in classrooms, whether that's PE or whether that's something else. And then we also have our district office. John and I have been out doing duty in the different, I've been at NAMS mostly, and John's been mostly at the high school, but we also have administrators going out to cover. Sometimes it works in this order, sometimes it doesn't. It depends upon the situation. Most of the time, we're just trying to solve the problem. The other thing we have going on is there's been a lot of discipline going on. There's kind of some heightened behavioral issues as kids are coming back into the school. Classrooms that have substitutes tend to have more discipline problems, especially when we're doing different subs at different periods. It's creating it's an unpredictable environment that's creating more problems. Students are struggling with, some students are, I mean, many of our students are doing just fine, but we're definitely seeing an increase in behaviors. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to find a way to extend prep time for our staff. And then the other thing is maybe to provide a break here. We're just seeing things start to ramp up here and wondering if this isn't a good place for us to provide a break. So our recommendation is this, that we'd like to convert November 22nd and November 23rd to no school for students. It would be prep and planning for teachers. I'm going to go through what it means for the other employee groups in just a second and kind of walk through that. But this is kind of the general thing. Again, I want to go back to it's not something I'm really excited about doing, but I feel like it's something that we need to do right now. I'm going to go through kind of the questions and answers, and you can ask me if I don't cover it. You feel free to hit me at the end here. We put it on as an action tonight because we felt like if you want to take action, you can, but you could table this and we could do a special meeting. If you need me to go do some more information, we can do that. But you have the ability to do what you want to do here. For me, there is a little bit of a time crunch here because we do need to get notice out to our parents and our kids. But I wanted you to know that you have control to do what you want to do here as a board. What are other school districts doing? Beaverton took the 2 days. They were student contact days. They took one PD day that's coming up later, I think it's the beginning of December, and moved it up to this week. And then the second day, they just said, we're giving it to you as a wellness day. Nobody's working. So they're getting paid, but nobody's working. That's what Beaverton's doing. Hillsborough doesn't have school on those days. They have staff development on the Monday, and then on Tuesday, they're calling it Family Connections, and they're asking for staff to call and connect with the families that they have. Banks has approved November 12th as a no school day. I should say before we move on, we're worried about this Friday, November 12th. We haven't been approving leaves because we have a day off on Thursday and a lot of folks are wanting to take the Friday off. We haven't been approving leaves on that. I'm still expecting that we're going to be missing some of our folks. We basically told everybody at the district office not to put anything on your schedule Friday because we believe we're going to need to be covering on Friday. We'll see if that comes true. Banks has November 12th as a no school day. They're currently scheduled to work on the Monday and Tuesday. Sherwood's, they have no school on that whole Thanksgiving week. Gaston's has school on the 12th, but November 22nd is a non-school day. The Monday is a staff development day, and then the rest of the week they have off. Tiger Tualatin is staying with school on Monday and Tuesday. So those are the school districts that I know in Washington County, just so you know kind of where the other school districts are at. We've had some initial conversations with our unions. They've been talking to us for the last couple of weeks about workload issues. So this isn't something that's new to them. Can meals be provided? There's a waiver in place, ODE, that we can utilize. We won't be able to do the 7-day meal box, but we could do the days that we're missing, which is the Monday, Tuesday, and we could do a pickup on one on the east side and one on the west side. We need to provide some notice. They got to have about 5 days for ODE, and we need about 2 weeks because we're having supply chain issues. So getting the food will be a little bit of a, we just need some notice. What about our other employees? With food service, it's going to allow the, and this is coming from the folks at Sodexo. So when I read this, we contacted them, and this is what they're telling us. For food service, it allows nutrition service workers to take a breath. They're exhausted. Staff who don't work the curbside would be able to file unemployment. They would have a waiting week. So when Christmas comes along, that's what they would do, is file for unemployment, and they won't have to wait the week. They'll already be applied. Custodial already working multiple shifts to fill in the gaps. They're exhausted and ready for a break. Custodial would work to catch up on restocking and cleaning, and then they would start catching up on some of the other jobs. There's no change in the overall custodial hours. Facilities, if staff are working in the buildings without students, this would allow more access to the facilities to get caught up on work orders. If facilities are closed, they'd move the NAMS boiler replacement to Thanksgiving rather than Christmas, because they're only working on one boiler. They're only running on one boiler right now. And the sooner we can kind of get that fixed, the better off we are. Midco is already seeing requests from drivers to take these 2 days off. May already be a challenge for transportation during these 2 days. Impact on hours. So this is, we went through and calculated what the instructional hours are. And what we found was this, is that basically down here are kind of the extra hours that we have. The one to look at here is kindergarten. It's at 10.75 hours. They started a little bit later and their day is not very long. So therefore they're the closest. Everybody else has fairly significant. Grade 4 is fairly close. In cutting these 2 days at the kindergarten level, there would be, it'd be 10.5 hours. So there's basically 0.25 hours left over in kindergarten. The rest of these would get very close to. So we could do this. We would still satisfy Division 22, but what it does mean is that we're at the limit. So if this happens, if there is an inclement weather day, then we're making it up. There's no other way around that. And then miscellaneous, a couple of the other questions that folks asked were, would we have daycare? Champions could offer daycare, but only for those folks who are already signed up with them doing the either morning or afternoon daycare. The food pickup in the past, we've done 150 to 150 to 25. It depends upon the day, and I think it really kind of comes down to our communication. And so those were most of the questions. There's still some other ones that I know that were out there that I didn't want to get in there, but I would open it up to more questions or discussion, and we can kind of figure out where we want to go with this.
I have a question, Dave.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just a comment. And you know, if we do this now in the fall, you know, January to June is the long part of the school year. And I guess what I'm saying is, if we did this now, we would not be able to do this, well, based at least on the hours, but I wonder what happens in the springtime when there are no subs and when your teachers are teaching, there's no, you know, PD days or no non-student days in that part of the school year. And what's going to happen? So maybe it is a question, what, you know, what might happen in the springtime?
Yeah. I don't have a great answer there, because we're hours wise, we're up against it at this point. If we do these 2 days, then we would be right at the limit. We have built in a one of the teacher prep days in between the 2 semesters for secondary, but we didn't build that in for elementary because they wanted it at the end of the year to finish out. So there's not a great there isn't room.
Well, there's a spring break, right? So that would alleviate some way for teachers and the rest to get a breather, I assume.
Yes. I think what Mark's kind of referring to a little bit is April. There's a long part of the year that once you get past really spring break, there's April's like 5 full weeks. May has got one holiday in it. There's a long part of the year there. Absolutely.
Hi, Dave. This is Valerie. I'm assuming that we don't have any idea how the parents feel about this change to the calendar. Have we
No.
asked anybody or sent out a survey?
We have not sent out a survey at this point.
Yeah, I'm just worried about the people that work and what they're going to be doing for childcare,
Right.
and the calendar comes out, in advance for reasons like that, so that they can make plans. So that's a big concern to me.
Yep.
I would echo the same.
I would add to that right now we're talking about what the adults need. We haven't really had a discussion about what kids need. They've been out for not out, but they've been on at home instruction for almost a year and a half. And we're having a discussion about what the adults need right now. And I understand this whole substitute situation. I do. But at some level, we just need to have a discussion about what kids need for instruction. So, and I don't know that we make a decision tonight. I think we should hold this for a couple of days and just have a further discussion for what we want to do. So that would be my comment.
Yeah, Brett, I think that's a very good point. That we haven't been saying, what's best for the students, and is this the best thing for the students, or is being in the classroom the best thing for the students? And I think that the thing that stands out the most for me is that the problem that I see is that we don't have enough substitutes, and taking 2 days off is not solving that problem at all. They're also this break would also be happening over Thanksgiving week, when the staff is already going to have 5 days off in a row to have a break. So that's another thing to be thinking about.
Kate, I'd like to table this for a couple days and maybe come back for another session.
I wanted to ask Dave, is it feasible to get some parent response in such a short time frame?
I think we can send out a survey. Parents are usually very responsive, especially if we're talking a couple of days here. Again, I don't think this is unreasonable, because this is emerging fast. And this did come about very quickly, and we haven't had the ability we haven't communicated everywhere. So getting you some of that information, I think, is fair.
I agree that, I agree that tabling it tonight and taking no action on this tonight, and scheduling, I know it says 48 hours, is our practice, but maybe this is one where we, with the notice, to the notice. And so maybe this is one where we do 24 hours because it is timely. And, I think we talk about getting some feedback and taking a little bit of time.
Yep.
Well, Dave, could we have another meeting on Wednesday, a short meeting, to see if we want to table it or to have an action item on Wednesday? Is that enough time? Or Kathy, is that the person I asked?
I think what's jumping to, I think Wednesday's a little quick.
Okay.
I think if I push out some survey information just to find out where parents are at. And then if we've got a holiday on Thursday, I would probably have pushed it towards Thursday, but I think maybe we push it to Friday.
Right.
And then we'll kind of see where some of this information comes back and where parents are at. Do they feel like kids need a break right now? Like I was suggesting, or do they feel like, no, let's keep them in school? I'm fine with that. Like I said, I'm really torn by this whole thing because of, I want to keep them in school. I just know we're having issues in the organization.
Yeah, and I hear you, Dave, and I support I support the needs of the teachers and the staff, and I appreciate the effort of you answering all the questions of the board, because, you know, initially it sounded good, but then there's a lot of different variables. So I really
Right.
appreciate it. But I certainly don't want the teachers thinking that we don't recognize that it's been a challenging year and that the board and the district does not support them. But we do need to have a little bit more input, especially by the parents. So if we did would you send out the response from the parents like on Thursday, or there's no school on Thursday, right? So how would the board get to review that information?
We'll still send it out again. I mean, we're still working.
Okay.
I mean, yes, it's a holiday, but we can still push out the information. My first question is, in tabling this, do you need to make a motion here or what? Because it's not actually, no one's made a motion, so it's not actually on the table yet, is it?
No, we didn't make a motion.
Yeah, we don't have to make a motion to table it. They just don't take action on it.
Gotcha.
And when we send out the survey, we could say something so parents are aware that there may be another board meeting coming up. Just based on the results of the survey, the board may take action at a special meeting.
Right.
So at least that provides some more notice to families.
Right.
Do we need to pick a time for Friday tentatively, or you'll just do a poll, Kathy?
No, I think we need a time.
Okay.
For Friday.
Okay. What would work best for everybody?
I'm
actually-
open.
Friday morning?
I am out of town remotely. Probably won't have a lot of access. It's Veterans Day, so been married 25 years, never done anything special for my veteran husband. So I'm maybe I can participate maybe via call, but I don't know if I can do Zoom.
Well, we could do that, couldn't we, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, again, I think some folks may want to monitor, log into so I'm thinking afternoon, but I'm thinking like 4 o'clock or something. How does that sound? 3:30?
It works for me. How about
That's
you,
fine for
Mark?
me as well.
3:30.
Mark?
Yeah, 3:30 would be fine.
Okay. Narcy, would that work? A phone call at 3:30?
We'll be traveling back to Forest Grove, so I'll find a parking lot somewhere. I'll figure it out.
So do you want us to call you on your cell?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to table this until 3:30 on Friday. We'll do a Zoom meeting and a phone call to Narcy. Does that sound all right?
Yeah,
And
Kate,
then-
I'm gonna need to do a phone call too, probably.
Okay. So a phone call to how do we?
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
is it this? Do I just press the number thing like I would do anyways for the Zoom
Yeah.
meeting?
Yeah.
Kathy, I think. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll be good.
And
Okay,
then
awesome.
the other information that I need to get for you is we'll go out and query parents around this. Any other information that you want me to collect on this?
Well, yeah, I don't know, Dave. I mean, I just in thinking about this, we're talking about 2 non-contact student days now. I don't know. I just think would we then consider maybe 2 non-contact student days sometime in the spring is all I'm thinking if we didn't do this. That's just what I'm thinking.
To make those days up.
Yeah, well,
Or
to provide the relief that the staff, is asking for now. Val made a good point that there's 5 days and then there are 3 weeks and 3 busy weeks, and then there's 2 weeks off for the holiday break. But when you get into the springtime, other than spring break, it's pretty long period of time. So.
Well, another option would also be, I don't know if we want to ask this or not, but is changing the PD/grading days to be able to work remotely, to be able to work from home. And that way they would kind of be getting a break, but still be, required to do their grades, or if they had their PD, they would be doing it via Zoom meetings. I don't know if that's another option. The other thing I'd like the parents to be asked is if they would be able to pick up food if we offered it.
We're already in discussions on the grading day, so that's already kind of happening with the union. So that's a good thought. And then we'll get the other information from parents.
Okay, any other questions for Dave?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. So in your packet, there's information on the enrollment report and also the financial report. And if there is no other questions or no further business, I am going to adjourn the meeting at 7:25 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good night. Have a good evening.
Good night, Kate. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.